Okay, guys, back to our translations. Transformations. Our last type of transformation is a translation. And the first one I'm going to talk about is called a vertical translation. So given a function, f of x equals b of x plus c, right? So the base function plus some value where c is a real number. For every point x, y on the graph of b, there will be a corresponding point x, y plus c. So essentially, it's just adding to the y value on the graph of f. This is probably the easiest transformation. So for example, let the base function be the absolute value of x. I'll track these 3 points and graph the following. So f of x equals absolute value of x plus 2. Well, I know that b of x is absolute value x, which I have graphed here. So to get to here, I know that b of x plus 2 is equal to absolute value of x plus 2, which is what I want. And I know that's a shift up 2. Okay, so I'm expecting all the y values to go up by 2. Let's see if that happens. So I have x and I have f of x. If I use the point 0, 0, x is 0, then I get absolute value of 0 plus 2 is 2. So I have this point here, 0, 2. So notice 0, 0 shifted up by 2. If I use x equals 1, I have absolute value of 1 plus 2 is 3. So I went from 1, 1 to 1, 3. And if I use negative 1, that's absolute value negative 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. That also shifted up 2 points. So really all I'm doing is I'm tweaking the y values. And now we're up here. So I just literally took this and just shifted it up by 2 points. If I track 3 points, the whole graph comes with it. Likewise, g of x equals absolute value of x minus 3. I'll track these 3 points. b of x, the base function, the thing this looks like, the thing that this reminds me of is absolute value x. So once again, I went ahead and I graphed that. And to get what g of x, I'm going to do b of x minus 3. That's going to be absolute value x minus 3 like I want. That's going to be a shift down 3. So I'm just going to take 3 away from each y value. I'll let you go ahead and do the table if you're not sure, okay? But it's a pretty easy tweak because now this is the point 0, negative 3. The point 1, 1, if I move that down by 3, this is the point 1, negative 2. And negative 1, 1, the x doesn't change. This is just negative 1, negative 2 now. So I've literally just shifted this thing down 3 points. That is our vertical shift, vertical translation. Now I want to talk about horizontal translations. The only thing with this is it's a little counterintuitive. Given a function g defined by g of x equals the base function of x minus c. So what I really want you to notice here is now the transformation is happening inside of the base function, okay? Where c is a real number. So if it's happening inside, usually things happen to the x's, and that is what happens here. For every point x, y on the graph of the base function, there will be a corresponding point x plus y. Okay. Sorry, I believe that's going to be x plus c, comma y. All right, on the graph of g. So this actually shifts in the opposite direction of what you would expect. So let's use our absolute value function again as our base function. I'll track those same 3 points. F of x equals absolute value of x minus 2. So if my base function is absolute value x, okay, then to get this, I need b of x minus 2. Notice this is happening inside of the function, just like up here. That's going to be our f of x. That's exactly what we want. And according to what I have up here, this says that it's actually going to shift it to the right. Okay, I'm actually going to add to the x value. So I'm going to say, okay, shift right by 2. If I shift right by 2, then I'm adding 2 to the x values, okay? Just to see if we can feel confident about this, let's do the table. So if I put in 0 for the x, I'm expecting that to change to 2, 0, okay? So if I go ahead and actually let's put in, let me put in the value of 2. If I put in the value 2, I get absolute value 2 minus 2 is absolute value 0 is 0. So now the 0.20 is on here. Notice what happened. 0, 0 went to the right by 2. I just added 2 to the x value. And if I go ahead, let's use 3. 3 minus 2, that's 1. So 1, 1 went to 3, 1. So once again, shift it over by 2, add 2 to the x value. And finally, what if I use 1? Absolute value 1 minus 2 is absolute value of negative 1 is 1. So 1, 1 is on here, except for that came from here, it's shifting over by 2. And now we can see kind of what's happening. So even though you look at the minus 2, and I know you really want to move it to the left, it's counterintuitive when it happens inside. Okay, it's to the right. That being said, what if I want g of x equals x plus 3? I'm going to expect this to be a shift left 3 if this follows the same sort of rules. Okay, so I'm expecting a negative 3, 0. I'm expecting a negative 4, 1. And I'm expecting a negative 2, 1. So I'd encourage you to check that that is in fact what we need. And that's our last type of transformation. Next thing, we're going to combine these things.